Welcome back to our healthy home. So today I'm going to share some herbs, 5 particular herbs that are useful for headaches and also for helping you go to sleep. So if that interests you, make sure you keep watching. I just want to give a disclaimer, first of all, that you don't want to take any medications without consulting your doctor first. All the information here is for educational purposes, so it's not a prescription or telling you to go out and purchase any medicines. You want to look into these herbs further, into all of these herbs, do your own research, and of course, consult your physician. All right, so first let's start with Skullcap, and that's the only one that I have powdered, so it is easy to identify from the behind. So Skullcap also goes by Scutellariae, and Scutellariae, the root words translate to little disc and also little shield. And the Skullcap name also comes from the caps or the hats that the soldiers used to wear. And so just when I think about it, I just think of it as protective for the skull, for the head, but also it is a brain tonic and nerve tonic, more specifically. It is also a sedative plant. It is in the mint family, and a lot of those plants are useful for calming you down. And it also is useful, like many of the mint plants are, for the stomach. So it's useful for PMS and even mood swings and depression. The properties of this are really calming, and so it's useful for nervousness, anxiety, also for the headaches and migraines, but also useful for if you have restless legs, if you have twitching, any of that. This is a very calming plant. And so when you do an infusion of this plant, the cold infusion is actually stronger. So that is something, if you really need something stronger, then just to know that about this plant. So when I formulate this, let me just go ahead and give you guys my recipe. And so I use Skullcap, but I actually use this at half a part to 1 part of Tulsi basil, or holy basil is usually what I call it, but it goes by both names. And I do this because this is a very bitter plant, and I find the taste to me is more flat. And so I like to add something in that has more of a depth of flavor. And this helps by adding it with this in this quantity, it helps to give it more of a sweetness. And then I add a pinch of stevia as well. And that's just to make it taste a little better. And so I recommend for teas that if you use powder, you're gonna make your own tea bag with cheesecloth or anything like that. I don't like to take these out of my tea strainers. It's more of a headache. And so I would say definitely get the plant if that's what you want to do. If that's the primary way you want to use it for teas, then I would say get just the cut and sifted plant material. Next, let's go to Valerian. And it's kind of split. The people that are fans of Valerian really like Valerian, and so I am a fan of this, but I use it in smaller quantities. So really interesting, they say about 15 to 20% of people that actually take Valerian have a negative reaction to it. Instead of calming them down, it actually kind of wires them, and it's because of the active the active chemical in this. Some people just doesn't fare well with their body. They actually say the really weak people and even really skinny people this isn't the plant for them. And I think because I am on the slimmer side, it works really strong and really powerful for me. But I do like it for sedating, and it is really useful for the stomach as well, the stomach muscles. And so when I use this, I instantly kind of felt that, but it was a little bit too relaxed. I don't want to go into TMI, but my stool was a little bit more, had a little bit, it was a little looser, I'll say. And so, and it happened right like an hour or so after taking this. So I know that it was a Valerian. So I just, change the way I was using it. And you gotta just see how things react to your body. Don't just go by what anyone says. And of course, like I said, do your own research and then test it out on yourself. So the reason why a lot of people also don't like Valerian is because of the smell of it. It's actually unique that it has a stronger scent the older it is. When it is fresh, people say that the smell is tolerable, but then they don't like the smell afterwards. And they say it smells like dirty socks, and I don't think so. I just like the Valerian. I don't think it smells kind of earthy, a little bit perfumey, and this is a very aromatic plant. And so even when you're tasting this, to me, it tastes like perfume. So that's another reason why I just formulate it. You just formulate around it. So I wouldn't make it the principal herb in the recipe, but it is really useful. I really do like it. So this is also, as I talked about, really relaxing to the muscles. It is a sedative plant. The Valerian comes from Valere, which is to be well or to be strong. It's also, even though it is a root, most roots you do decoct, but this one you actually do an infusion. So Valerian is in the plant family with the elder. Most people probably know it as elderberry, but it is just goes by the elder because other parts of the elderberry are useful as well. So this has an affinity for the nervous system. It is a nervine. It is a relaxant, so it is useful for the muscles or the musculoskeletal system, and it's also useful for the digestion. And so that's why it kind of relaxed me a little bit too much in that area as well. So this is useful for sleep. Again, if you have any restlessness, if you really are wired and it's hard to turn off your brain. This is a good herb to help you to relax not even just your mind and your nerves, but also to relax the body as well. Then the next herb I want to talk about, and this is lavender, lavandula, and it actually comes from lavare, and that means to wash. It's very similar to Spanish lavar. But so this was used in baths, it's used in perfumes, it was just associated with cleanliness, and even just inhaling it kind of makes you relax and even energize. So that's what it actually does. It helps to relax you, but also helps your mind to get more focused, probably because it takes the stress away and clears the mind. Some of the uses of lavender are for insomnia, for sleeping, for stress, for anxiety, but even for like dizziness or for fainting. The really safe herb, and that's why I wanted to talk about the herbs that the 5 herbs. That's the way that I picked them, by all really safe herbs, and some like lavender, which people are very familiar with. Now, lavender is another very aromatic plant, and the aromatic plants tend to be very carminative or useful for getting rid of gas and bloating, and cramping in the stomach. And so it is useful for that as well. So lavender is a wonderful plant. Because of the taste, it can be really strong in a brew. And so you just kind of want to formulate it. And so I'll be sharing another one of my peaceful, relaxing bedtime teas with lavender being one of the main ingredients. And so definitely try it. I think it is a really delicious tea. But if you find the lavender flavor is a little bit too much for you, you can scale it back. But I like it. I felt like the first sip was lavender, but then afterwards you get a rich variety of different flavors. So definitely, if you try any one out, definitely try this one. Great. So next I have chamomile, and chamomile, I won't stay on it too long because people are very familiar with chamomile. Chamomile is another very safe herb, even for children, and it's useful for colic and also for gripe water or for teething. Very useful for children. It is a mild sedative, so it's not as strong, but I love the sweetness of it. If you steep it too long, it will be better. But if you steep it just right, you can get the sweetness. And that's why I like to add it into these different blends. I pretty much add chamomile in pretty much everything because I think it makes things taste better. So German chamomile. There's also Roman chamomile, but German chamomile is more common. The Roman has bigger flowers, but they're thought to be not as sweet. And actually, the chamomile name comes from ground apple because of its sweet aroma. Very wonderful plant. Antioxidant is also beneficial for the stomach as well. But this is used for all things sleep, whether it's in a tea, a bedtime tea, whether you have it in a sleep pillow, along with lavender. And maybe I'll just have to share some herbs that I definitely recommend for a sleep pillow. So not only can you use these in teas or tinctures, you could also use them in something simple like a bedtime tea or in a diffuser, so you don't even have to consume it. So wonderful chamomile. I won't stay on it too long because people already know so much about chamomile, but definitely try a cup of chamomile. I would always say start on the lower end of the spectrum and see how it works for your body and then adjust. And so while we are talking about tinctures, I've made extracts, and that's because my son especially has headaches more often, and so I want something to be safe enough for him as well. So I make glycerites, and so I have one of, and I just use actually straight glycerin and lavender. Now I did find that all of the lavender species are actually edible, which is really cool. But so I made it with this, and it has a very strong, delicious lavender taste. And so my daughter actually really didn't like it, but I think it's just because of this aromatic plant, and it just really gives you a strong flavor, and it works really efficiently. So I have that here. And then I also have another one of this next product, and I'll tell you about how I formulated that one. So this is our last one. This is California poppy. So this is in the opium poppy family. And this is a very green plant. And when it smells green to me. And when I say green, it just reminds me of grass. It's just really flat. It doesn't have a great flavor, and it's bitter. Even though bitter is good for stimulating digestion and useful for the body, it's not something that this is not a tea that I really love alone, and now I have drank it. And this, even though it is rated as even safe for children, it is not the best tasting, but it really works. And this is a sedative plant. And again, this is useful for relaxing you if you have headaches, migraines, insomnia. When I formulate this, I like to add in chamomile as well. And so I did make an extract, and I had probably about 3 parts of California poppy to 1 part chamomile. And I did that because I was making a glycerite, so I knew that it was already going to have that natural sweetness. And what I mean by glycerite is just, instead of using alcohol to make a tincture, I just made using about 80% glycerin and water, and covered it and did the folk method the same way that most people use for making tinctures. I did that for an extract. It's already gonna have the sweetness because glycerin is already naturally sweet. And so when you want kids to take medicine, it is a useful mechanism. And also syrups if you need something quicker. But this was actually, I made this for someone, and I had some left over, so I kept it for myself, and it really does work to relax the mind and relax the body, help you to relax if you have headaches, nervousness as well. And so you don't want to, when you're making a glycerite, you want to make it at least 55% glycerin because you do want it to last. And how long do these extracts last? Usually they say about 1 to 2 years, but they can definitely last longer. So this is useful for the people who can't sleep due to pain. This has an affinity for the nervous system, but also it is really great for relaxing the nerves and pain. So this has similar properties to the opium poppy plant, but this doesn't have the addictive properties of it. And so when you're using this, you don't want to use this if you are a depressed person. I'd say with the Valerian, you don't want to use this with other other pharmaceuticals, especially ones that are sedative. And one thing that I just noticed is with a lot of these plants, maybe you might take it for depression, but you don't want to use it with antidepressant medicines. So that's another reason why you do want to consult your physician, so you can make sure you know all of the contraindications, which just means when you don't want to use this plant or what you don't want to use it with, because it's going to work contrary to it, and it nullifies basically the benefits. So those are the 5 herbs that I wanted to talk about today. And if you are a person who suffers from anxiety, headaches, or having a hard time sleeping, hopefully you're able to narrow down which herb might be the right one for you, and I was able to lead you in the right direction. So if you enjoy this video, please make sure to like and to share it with your friends. I'm sure it'll be very beneficial for many people, because this is something due to stress, lots of responsibilities from jobs where we overwork ourselves. These herbs are just so useful and really very safe in most cases. So I also encourage you to check out the herb course, because I go much more into herbs. If you just want to learn more about certain herbs, I have a beginner's course, and then I have one that's much more dedicated to teaching you all about herbs and how to do your own formulas, how to make your own medicine, and how to make your own wellness programs so you can have better health for yourself, your family, and those around you. So that's all I have for you today. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.